Have you ever noticed how exhausting it is to keep everything under control? Every decision carefully calculated, every emotion held back, every unexpected event treated like a threat. At first, it feels like strength, like maturity, like the only way to survive in an unpredictable world. But what if the need to control everything isn't a sign of stability at all? What if it's the first symptom of a heart slowly turning to ice? Long before psychology gave this struggle a name, an old fairy tale had already captured it with remarkable precision. Hidden beneath its snow-covered landscapes and enchanted imagery lies a profound portrait of a mind that becomes so devoted to certainty that it loses its connection to warmth, love, and life itself. This is not merely the story of a cruel queen or a magical winter. It is the story of a psychological state many of us unknowingly inhabit. A place where perfection replaces intimacy, logic silences emotion, and safety comes at the cost of genuine human connection. Today, we will journey into the Snow Queen to uncover why the relentless pursuit of control may be freezing the very part of us that makes life worth living. Most people don't wake up one morning and decide to stop feeling. It happens quietly, almost invisibly, one careful decision at a time, one disappointment carefully locked away, one painful memory pushed into the background. Gradually, control begins to feel safer than vulnerability. At first, it seems harmless. You become more organized, more disciplined, more reliable. You anticipate problems before they appear. You plan every detail, prepare for every possibility, and convince yourself that if nothing is left to chance, nothing can truly hurt you. From the outside, this looks like success. People admire your composure. They praise your efficiency. They describe you as someone who always has everything under control. But inside, something else may be happening. The moments of genuine joy become rare. Spontaneity starts to disappear. Relationships become difficult because trust always feels risky. Rest becomes uncomfortable because the mind refuses to stop calculating the next step. Even happiness begins to require permission from an endless list of conditions. Without realizing it, life becomes a project to manage rather than an experience to live. Carl Jung observed that whenever one aspect of the personality becomes excessively dominant, balance is lost. The mind was never meant to rule alone. It was designed to work alongside feeling, intuition, and direct experience. When one function attempts to govern the entire psyche, it gradually silences the others. This is where control stops being a useful ability and becomes a psychological defense. It no longer protects you from danger. It protects you from uncertainty. And because uncertainty is an unavoidable part of being human, the defense never truly rests. The result is exhausting. Many people spend years believing they are building a life of stability, while unknowingly constructing walls that separate them from the very experiences they long for most: love, creativity, intimacy, wonder, and emotional freedom. The tragedy is that this prison rarely looks like a prison. It looks like responsibility. It looks like perfection. It looks like intelligence, which is precisely why it is so difficult to recognize. Long before modern psychology described this silent transformation, an old fairy tale had already given it a face. Not through scientific language, but through one of the most unforgettable symbols ever created. A queen clothed in ice, a boy whose heart slowly stopped feeling, and a kingdom where everything was perfectly ordered because nothing was truly alive. Every prison begins with a way of seeing. Long before Kay followed the Snow Queen into her frozen kingdom, something far more important had already happened. The world itself had changed before his eyes. Hans Christian Andersen begins the story with one of the most disturbing symbols in all of fairy tales: a magical mirror created by an evil force. Unlike ordinary mirrors, this one distorted reality. Everything beautiful appeared ugly. Everything noble became ridiculous. Every flaw was magnified, while everything worthy of love disappeared from view. Eventually, the mirror shattered, its countless fragments scattered across the world, drifting through the air until they found new victims. Some pieces entered people's eyes, changing the way they perceived reality. Others pierced their hearts, slowly turning them as cold as ice. One tiny fragment found Kay. From that moment on, nothing around him truly changed. His grandmother was the same. Gerda remained the same loving friend. The roses still bloomed outside their window. Only Kay's perception had changed. Suddenly, beauty seemed foolish. Innocence became childish. Affection felt unnecessary. His attention was irresistibly drawn toward flaws, imperfections, and everything that could be criticized or analyzed. This is precisely what makes the mirror such a powerful psychological symbol. The greatest transformations of the human personality rarely begin with external events. They begin with invisible changes in perception. Carl Jung understood that consciousness does not simply record reality, it interprets it. The way we see the world is inseparable from the condition of our inner life. When fear, disappointment, or unresolved emotional pain dominate the psyche, perception itself becomes distorted. We no longer encounter life as it is, but through the lens of our defenses. The mirror represents that subtle shift. Instead of participating in life, we begin evaluating it. Instead of experiencing beauty, we measure it. Instead of feeling, we analyze. Instead of connecting, we judge. Little by little, the living world is replaced by concepts, categories, and endless calculations. Everything becomes an object to understand, improve, or control. At first, this transformation feels empowering. After all, analysis creates the comforting illusion that nothing can surprise us. But every illusion demands a price. The more Kay trusted the cold clarity offered by the mirror, the further he drifted from the warmth that once gave meaning to his life. Without realizing it, he had begun exchanging relationship for observation, love for certainty, and wonder for explanation. The fragment in his eye had changed how he saw the world. The fragment in his heart was about to change who he would become. When the Snow Queen finally appears, she does not force Kay to follow her. She doesn't threaten him. She doesn't deceive him with promises of power. She simply offers him a world that now feels strangely familiar. A world where nothing unpredictable can survive. She kisses him, and the little warmth still left in his heart begins to fade. Then she carries him to her palace, a place of breathtaking beauty, built entirely from snow and ice. It is flawless, perfectly symmetrical, silent, untouched by time. Nothing grows there, nothing decays, nothing changes. At first glance, it seems like paradise, but it is a paradise where life itself has disappeared. Inside the palace, Kay becomes absorbed in a strange task. He spends his days arranging pieces of ice into perfect, geometric patterns, convinced that if he solves the great puzzle before him, he will obtain everything he desires. He never questions why. He never asks what he has lost. His entire existence becomes centered on mastering an impossible problem. This is where the fairy tale reveals one of its deepest psychological truths. Marie-Louise von Franz often observed that fairy tales portray the objective movements of the psyche. They show what happens when one psychic principle becomes so dominant that it overwhelms the others. The Snow Queen is not simply an evil ruler. She embodies a consciousness fascinated by absolute order, perfect logic, and emotional detachment. Her kingdom is the image of a mind that has become disconnected from the living soul. Carl Jung warned that thinking is one of humanity's greatest gifts, but like every psychological function, it becomes destructive when it claims absolute authority. A dissociated intellect begins to believe that every mystery can be solved, every emotion explained, every uncertainty eliminated. Yet the more it seeks complete mastery, the further it drifts from the richness of human experience. Perhaps this is why Kay never realizes he is imprisoned. The palace gives him certainty. The puzzle gives him purpose. The silence protects him from disappointment, and the cold keeps him from feeling pain. Many people, unknowingly build similar kingdoms. They fill every moment with work, productivity, achievement, or endless analysis. Their calendars are full, their minds are constantly occupied, and their lives appear remarkably successful. Yet beneath that carefully ordered surface, something essential has gone quiet. The heart is no longer participating. The greatest tragedy is not that the Snow Queen freezes Kay's emotions. It is that, after a while, he no longer remembers what warmth ever felt like. And while he remains captivated by a perfection that can never truly satisfy, someone else has already begun a very different journey, one that will reveal a force no kingdom of ice can ever fully overcome. While Kay sat motionless inside the palace of ice, convinced that the answer to life could be found in perfect patterns, someone else refused to believe he was truly lost. Gerda. Unlike the heroes of many fairy tales, she possesses no magical weapon, no extraordinary strength, and no hidden supernatural power. What she carries is something far less spectacular, yet infinitely more transformative: unwavering love. When Kay disappears, Gerda does not set out to conquer the Snow Queen. She sets out to find the boy she remembers. Guided only by hope, she crosses forests, rivers, frozen landscapes, and unfamiliar kingdoms, meeting strangers who either delay or quietly support her journey. Each encounter is more than an adventure. It is another stage in the soul's movement toward wholeness. Unlike Kay, who becomes increasingly detached from life, Gerda remains fully engaged with it. She listens. She grieves. She trusts. She receives help when she needs it. She allows herself to be changed by every encounter without losing sight of the purpose that guides her. This difference is profoundly symbolic. Marie-Louise von Franz often emphasized that fairy tale heroes rarely triumph through domination. They succeed because they remain connected to the natural movement of the psyche. Instead of forcing transformation, they cooperate with it. Gerda embodies this principle perfectly. She never attempts to outsmart the Snow Queen. She never competes with the cold using greater strength. She simply refuses to let love be replaced by fear. Psychologically, she represents the forgotten capacity within every person to remain in relationship with life, even after suffering. She reminds us that healing does not begin when every problem has been solved. It begins when we become willing to feel again. This is why her greatest weapon is neither courage nor intelligence. It is presence. In a culture that often celebrates productivity over connection and certainty over vulnerability, Gerda offers a radically different image of strength. She moves forward without knowing every answer. She accepts uncertainty without surrendering hope. She trusts that what is alive inside the human heart possesses a wisdom no calculation can replace. By the time she finally reaches the Palace of Ice, she brings with her something the Snow Queen's kingdom has lacked from the beginning: warmth. Not the warmth of comfort, the warmth of a soul that never allowed fear to define its way of loving. And it is precisely this quiet, unwavering presence that begins to reveal the greatest weakness hidden beneath the perfect beauty of the frozen kingdom. It is tempting to believe that the Snow Queen's palace exists only in fairy tales, but perhaps it has never disappeared. Perhaps it has simply changed its appearance. Today, the Palace of Ice rarely has frozen walls or endless fields of snow. Instead, it often looks like a perfectly organized calendar, an inbox that must always be empty, a relentless pursuit of achievement, or the constant pressure to optimize every aspect of life. It appears in the belief that every problem has a solution if we think hard enough, work long enough, or plan carefully enough. Without noticing it, many people spend their lives building emotional fortresses that look remarkably successful from the outside. They become highly productive, highly disciplined, highly respected, yet they struggle to experience joy without guilt, to rest without anxiety, or to love without fear of losing control. This is the modern form of the frozen kingdom. Carl Jung observed that whatever we refuse to experience consciously does not disappear. It continues to influence us from the unconscious, often disguising itself as a personality, ambition, or necessity. The need for absolute control frequently hides something far more vulnerable: the fear of uncertainty, rejection, grief, or emotional pain. Control, then, is not always the opposite of fear. Sometimes it is fear wearing the mask of competence. This is why the palace feels so comfortable. It offers certainty, predictability, efficiency. It protects us from disappointment by asking only one thing in return: never become vulnerable again. But every psychological bargain carries a hidden cost. The more we attempt to eliminate uncertainty, the more we distance ourselves from everything that makes life meaningful. Love cannot be controlled. Creativity cannot be scheduled. Trust cannot be calculated. Genuine relationships require the willingness to enter experiences whose outcomes we cannot predict. The deepest irony is that many people who desperately seek peace become trapped in endless vigilance. Their minds never stop working because the next threat might always be waiting just beyond today's carefully arranged plans. Like Kay, they mistake emotional numbness for stability. They mistake perfection for wholeness. And they mistake survival for truly living. The Snow Queen's greatest victory was never freezing one boy's heart. It was convincing him that the cold was safety, that certainty was freedom, and that a life without risk was a life without suffering. But beneath every layer of ice, something quietly waits, not to be repaired, not to be perfected, only to be awakened. When Gerda finally reaches Kay, she does not arrive carrying a weapon or a brilliant argument. She brings no secret formula capable of breaking the Snow Queen's spell. Instead, she does something that appears almost impossibly simple. She weeps. Her tears fall upon Kay's frozen heart, and slowly, the ice begins to melt. The fragment lodged within him is washed away, and for the first time in what feels like an eternity, he remembers who he truly is. This moment is not a rejection of reason. It is the restoration of balance. The fairy tale never suggests that intelligence is the enemy. Kay does not become wiser by abandoning thought. He becomes whole because thought is reunited with feeling. The cold clarity that once isolated him is no longer allowed to govern his entire inner world. Carl Jung believed that psychological maturity does not arise from choosing one part of ourselves over another. It emerges through integration. Individuation is the lifelong process of allowing the different dimensions of the psyche to enter into dialogue rather than domination. Thinking, feeling, intuition, and sensation each have their place. None were meant to rule alone. This is the lesson, hidden beneath the frozen landscape of the Snow Queen. Perhaps the greatest danger in life is not that we will become emotional or irrational. Perhaps it is that we become so committed to certainty that we forget how to be touched by life itself. Many of us have built our own palaces of ice. Some hide behind endless work, others behind perfectionism, others behind constant planning, endless analysis, or the belief that vulnerability is weakness. These structures may protect us from disappointment for a time, but they also keep joy at a distance. They silence wonder, soften compassion, and slowly replace living with managing. Yet the fairy tale offers a quiet hope. If the heart can freeze, it can also thaw, not through force, not through greater control, but through relationship, through courage, through love, through the willingness to remain open, even after experiencing pain. Perhaps that is why Gerda never truly defeats the Snow Queen. Instead, she awakens something within Kay that the Queen could never possess, the warmth that had never been completely extinguished. And maybe the same is true for us. If the ice in our lives was formed to protect us from suffering, then the path forward is not to wage war against ourselves. It is to gently rediscover the forgotten parts of the soul that still know how to trust, how to feel, and how to love. The question, then, is no longer whether the Snow Queen exists. The real question is this: what part of your heart has been waiting all this time for the ice to finally begin to melt? Fairy tales have survived for centuries, not because they tell us about magical kingdoms, but because they tell us about ourselves. The Snow Queen reminds us that the greatest prisons are rarely built from stone or iron. More often, they are built from habits, fears, and beliefs we once created to protect ourselves. Over time, those protections can become so familiar that we mistake them for who we are. Perhaps that is the quiet tragedy of Kay's story. He did not lose his heart in a single moment. He slowly forgot what it felt like to live with it. And perhaps that is why Gerda's journey still speaks to us today. She reminds us that no amount of logic can replace genuine human connection, that no perfect system can substitute for love, and that no frozen landscape is beyond the reach of warmth. The path toward wholeness is not about abandoning reason. It is about allowing reason and feeling to walk together, each giving the other what it cannot create alone. So before you leave, take a moment to ask yourself, where in your life has the desire for certainty become stronger than the willingness to truly live? If this story helped you see the Snow Queen, or perhaps even yourself, from a new perspective, consider subscribing to Unconscious Wisdom. Every week, we explore the hidden psychological wisdom found in fairy tales, mythology, and the works of Carl Jung and Marie-Louise von Franz, uncovering timeless symbols that continue to shape our inner lives. If this episode resonated with you, leave a comment below. I'd love to know what part of this story reflected your own journey. Thank you for watching, and until our next journey into the unconscious, remember, sometimes the greatest transformation begins not when we learn something new, but when we allow the frozen parts of ourselves to feel again.